You've tuned in to Chip Grooves Radio with Mike and Jesse.
I guess I can't say Mike because you're both Mikes.
We're both Mikes.
I'll be Mike.
We're going to go host Mike and guest Mike. There you go.
There you go. All right, or I can be Mike number 2. All right.
Yeah, Mike K. We could do Mike K. Is Mike K good?
That's fine.
Mike K is good. Fantastic. So, Mike A. I'll let you take it away, sir.
All right. Well, thank you very much for tuning in. Today we are talking with Mike Kapitan, jazz musician and synth keyboardist. This is a dream come true for me. I've been growing up with some of your music for quite a while now. So thank you very much for joining us.
You're very welcome. Happy to be here.
So, I mean, we do like to get some groundwork of the composers that we feature and how music came into your life. You know, what inspires you early on in your career? Is that something you could illuminate for us?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I grew up in the 60s, came of age in the 60s. So for me, it was, Beatles records and, buying every album as it came out, just listening over and over again, just loving that stuff and a lot of the 60s stuff. And at that time, I also, listened to my first couple of jazz records. I don't call myself a jazz musician. I am an improviser and I do work with a lot of jazz people, but I don't think I'm at that high level, although I have an imagination and can improvise and have done that. But, I'm not a bebop player. I don't have all that foundation. I appreciate that music. I don't have that foundation. I'm kind of more a guy who came in, from rock music and electronic music and somebody who's got some chops. But I can't call myself a jazz musician. I wish I could, but I'm not. So anyway, it was Beatle records. And then, I heard Take 5 by Dave Brubeck and Kind of Blue by Miles Davis. And I'm a lifelong Miles Davis fan. Love that 70s stuff, his electric stuff. Weather Report. You're talking about, influences and stuff. And I have to just say that the thing I like about electronic music and synthesizers is this whole new palette of sounds that are available and evolving literally, every day now. It's incredible. But to me, my big keyboard influences would be Joe Zawinul with Weather Report. I love the synth stuff he did. Just about every one of his records, and even his solo career after Weather Report. And I love Jan Hammer's work, Mini Moog stuff and pitch bending and just all the expression that you can put into a keyboard without being stuck just playing piano stuff, bending sounds, warping them, whatever. So, yeah.
It's really the landscape of being able to do almost anything with the electronic sounds that really captures your imagination then, huh?
Right. Yeah. You can play samples, you can warp them. There's just so many incredible patches available now. I mean, it's just all, you play a couple of notes with something and it just sends you off onto a mostly wonderful journey. Easy to get inspired with this stuff for me anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah. As a child who grew up in the kind of early 80s, it took me a little while to kind of warm up to some of my father's taste in music. Come to find out, years down the line, I was completely hooked. He was listening to, Miles Davis and, Dave Brubeck. And I mean, he even recently has turned me on to some other somewhat more modern artists like, what's his name? No, it's escaping me. I'm going to come back to that. But at any rate, I didn't really realize how much I appreciated that music just from kind of having it on in the background, very much like you, I'm sure, with the Beatles, until, I got to college and I started to sit down, listen to music and actually kind of break it down a little bit. And man, I tell you what, I've been hooked ever since. And I got to say, leading up to this interview, I was not as familiar with your work as Mike was. Mike's been kind of the lifelong fan. And I tell you what, I spent the last 3 days listening to some of your more recent works while I'm driving around in the car. I spend a lot of time in the car, so I have plenty of time to listen. And not often that I will let a album wrap up and then loop right back and start again. And caught myself doing that a few times.
Great. Oh,
Good stuff,
thanks,
Mike.
man. Great. I'm glad you appreciate it. Glad you're listening.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sketches of Spin. I actually just popped it on again yesterday and played through the whole thing. It's music that you can really find yourself fading into. And that's one thing I love, is to listen to something with headphones and just kind of let it wrap around you. And I think that honestly, that's some good music.
Great. Thanks so much. Yeah, that's my kind of, tribute to jazz. In my own way, there's obvious references to, A Cup of Joe is dedicated to Joe Zawinul, my fave. And I love that. I'm very proud of that album, and I'm about halfway through another one in that same direction. So
awesome.
Keep your eyes open. I think there's going to be a single release. It's all done. I mean, half of it's mixed and recorded, and I think I'm going to put out a single. I think it's ready to go. So I may do that. I was trying to decide whether to wait and finish the whole thing, do an EP, and I think it's wise to throw singles out there here and there and keep interest up. So keep your ears open.
Yeah, in an ever evolving and saturated market, you got to keep your feelers out there.
I know, and it's so hard to get noticed. There's not even. It's tough to get major deals now, and the great thing about the internet is everybody can hang out a shingle. Yeah. The bad thing about the internet is everybody can hang out a shingle. So
exactly.
I think I read somewhere where there's almost 1 million tracks being uploaded every day to Spotify and Apple Music and stuff. So it's really easy to get lost. I don't know. Anyway, we do it because we love it. So
absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we're here doing this show too. We're
great.
Doing it because we love it.
You're music lovers. Love that. Love that.
Absolutely. And that, like Jesse was saying, that's why we're here. That's this podcast was kind of just born from my love of video game soundtracks in general. And I felt like they were just underappreciated aspects of video games. And so I wanted to spend episodes dedicated to games that inspired me, my life, and my interests in music as what you would call maybe general or regular music, not video game oriented. So I found myself really meshing with video game music, and I wanted to pay tribute to composers that have inspired me, and you're definitely one of those.
Yeah, thanks so much. And again, as I've said to you guys before, it's kind of mind-blowing to me that there's this whole thing, video game music thing, and people who listen to that and appreciate it. I mean,
it's pretty incredible.
Surprising.
There's a lot of composers out there that have made their marks on, my life and Mike's life and many other people's as well. But I mean, heck, I went to go see a gentleman by the name of Tommy Tallarico. He's probably one of the more well-known video game soundtrack composers in history, going all the way back to Atari and regular NES, playing with the Boston Pops.
Wow.
in Boston at the, the Wang Theater. It was a wild experience and something that I don't think I'll ever have again. It was very unique to that time and quite memorable.
Way cool.
Yeah.
Nice. You guys asked how I got the gig and how it kind of started out with Cyberia. Well, I was in Thomas Dolby's band. I played on 2 of his albums. I toured with him. And so I came on board with the Aliens Ate My Buick album. Okay. And because I was in his band when he started his company, I mean, he hired me as a composer. So I did, Cyberia 1 with him. And so that's how I got the gig. We were working in it's NRG Studios, which at the time, they're a major recording studio in LA, but at the time they were in this house. Thomas had like the control room and he was writing away and working on stuff there. And I was in another room, another part of the building with by today's standards, kind of a meager setup, working on that. I must say that there was another one done there between Cyberia 1 and Cyberia 2 called Double Switch. And I just looked that up today, and sadly, there were 3 composers on that track. Thomas is the only one listed, but it was Thomas, myself, and a wonderful percussionist named Icky Levy, Ikilevy, who did all the percussion on that thing. So it was really quite a team doing that one. And then Headspace got out of they did. I don't believe they did any more video game scoring. He was really involved with Beatnik, the phone app. At the time. Cell phones just kind of gaining mass acceptance, and his whole thing with Beatnik was to be able to play MIDI music on a phone, which was a big deal then. Now, it's no big deal to stream or whatever. It's a whole different ball game. So I don't think they did any more video game scoring after that.
It doesn't appear that way.
Yeah. So that's how I got the gig anyway. I was part of his band, and he hired me to, compose. I did Cyberia too, and you had a question about that as well, and I'll answer it. It was a completely different thing. It was a different director, and I and that was done independently. That was not done for Headspace. I just got the gig. The director wanted, and there was a little bit of creative tension there. The director wanted a rock score.
Yeah,
I wanted to keep it the focus. And you asked another question about focus. The focus on Cyberia 1 was we were trying to be cinematic. It was a real kind of sci-fi thing, really cool, interesting sounds. And so I thought that worked really well, and I loved doing Cyberia 1. Cyberia 2, different director. She wanted a rock score. We kind of had, I said, okay, I really wanted to keep it in the orchestral, big synth, cinematic, kind of big thing. And she wanted a rock score, so I did the best. But and I know the game got some decent reviews and stuff. I wish we could have continued, frankly, with the direction of Cyberia 1. That just kind of, again, big cinematic thing. That was not to be. So that was a whole different thing.
And I want to just echo your sentiments there. I was actually just revisiting Cyberia 2 because, like you're saying, the soundtrack is quite different. And so I wanted to watch the playthrough of it. And man, it's just such a different game. It lost that spark of creativity that was in the first one. And I found myself not as interested in watching the game. It's very interesting because there's so much style in the first one. It's not a perfect game, but you combine what you were trying to do with cinematics and bringing that theatrical feel to a video game. And you sonically doing that was fantastic. The game itself was fantastic in the way they approach camera angles and things like that. So
go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to say, I totally agree with you.
Yeah. And the other thing I just want, and you guys probably know this already, but back then, this is the early 90s, we didn't, computers were not anywhere near as powerful as now. We had to really, I believe that playback during the game, I don't think it was 8-bit. It might have been 12 and it might have been 16, but we were really constrained by the available sonic bandwidth. So, things couldn't be as big, as deep, as loud sometimes. We had to really very carefully make room for the effects and everything else. And I haven't heard the game since, really it was done. And I know it was pretty lo-fi. So I'm glad that you guys can get the mixes off the DAT because you probably notice there's a huge difference in fidelity.
Yeah, I want to thank you again for that. I've been searching high and low for those soundtracks.
You and others. Others.
It's that time, everyone. The Magus Media Production sales pitch. Please check out our homepage at magusmediaproductions.net so you can stay up to date on all of our shows. Check out our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/Magus Media Productions, both of which have our Discord link on it, where you can join us for live shows as we record them for future release. At Magus Media Prods on X, our Patreon, patreon.com/MagusMedia, where a $5 donation will help us keep the lights on and bringing you new content, and you get some stickers. Thank you for your consideration and support.
Yeah, this when I got a chance to listen to the two soundtracks, those are the first time that I'd heard them. This is not a game that I grew up with, although I was playing on PC at around that time. I'm not entirely sure how I missed these games, because looking back on them, they would have been straight up my wheelhouse. But I was really struck when I was listening to the soundtrack the first time, and I even messaged Mike and said, "Man, these are really impressive, especially for the early '90s." And that cinematic feel that you touched on with trying to, drive home in your composition of the soundtrack for the first game. I mean, you did it. When I first started listening to it, it started almost like a sci-fi horror sort of theme. Like, it's got the synths, it's got the kind of unnerving sort of background music, and then it progresses into more of like that kind of electronica sound, which I really, really thought was very well done. So good stuff.
Very cool. And by the way, I love doing it. I love writing the picture. So it wasn't just to pay the bills. I absolutely loved it. Really thoroughly enjoy writing the picture. So it was a lot of love there.
So as far as the creative process, we'll just focus on Cyberia 1 for now. But did they supply you with finished products or like an idea of the length of the levels? Because I noticed the songs are very much tattooed onto the structure of the levels. So were you watching renditions of the levels as you were composing, or how did that go?
Absolutely. Yes. We have everything. In fact, in the garage, I still think I have the VHS tapes with time code. And so to answer your other question, all those little bits, I think everything got used in the game. And I think that was just for maybe a different level where maybe you're going to, run into a brick wall or nothing's going to happen. All those little bits, yes, we wrote the picture completely. Everything was, they may have changed them before final, like taking a few seconds off or changing something here or there. But no, we were writing the picture. We had everything on tape with time code, and we would compose to that. So all those little bits, they're somewhere in there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Was there a particular track that you enjoyed maybe more than another? I can't even remember the names of them all. The one longer one that's I don't know. When I rolled them off, I didn't even title them. They're just as I mixed them, and again, dug out of a garage from 35 years ago. So I'll just say I liked them all. I'm proud of that music. I think it's very cool. So yeah, absolutely. Was there any trepidation about perhaps writing for a new genre like the video game? It was pretty infant in that time, the early 90s. They weren't what they are today. They weren't multi-million-dollar productions. So was it interesting on that level to compose for like a smaller scale thing?
Yeah, no trepidation at all. Just thoroughly enjoyed it. Again, love writing the picture. And kind of knowing that it was going to be pretty lo-fi. We did our best on the mixing and stuff, but no, it was cool. It's just, again, just like writing the pictures. So thoroughly enjoyable. Not a problem.
Must have been kind of cool being able to work in like a new medium. I know that, looking over some of your collected works right up until around that, 1994, 1995 era, you've been pretty involved in music and kind of a lot of different facets of reality. I mean, everything from live performance to, I think you even did some commercials and some television work. So
a ton. After you were asking if I got tired of doing it. It kind of that game work, again, it just kind of dried up at Headspace. And I went from that to doing a ton, and I mean a ton of television commercials, not as a composer. I did a little bit of that, but my day gig, even from like kind of the mid 80s on, was as a recording engineer. And today my thing is, and I've mixed a bunch of records, I'm a mixer, and I love that. And I've been doing that for some time. But after the Headspace experience, I worked with a composer in LA who I work with to this day. And we did a ton of TV stuff, Levi's and Tommy Hilfiger and a bunch of that stuff. So that was a lot of work for a number of years. So that's kind of what I jumped into then. And I was a staff engineer at a studio in Hollywood in kind of the mid to late 80s, and then went independent. And work for several composers. I did compose a bunch of stuff that you can see to this day, right in that same period, for Universal Studios theme park in Orlando. Believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
There's I think it's what's it called, Island of I should look it up, but there's two. There's a Dr. Seuss thing, and then there's a kind of Islands of something or another. To this day, they're still playing that music, and that was a big project. And several composers working on that, so that's out there.
Was it Islands of Adventure? That one?
Yes. Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Yep. I've been there. How about that?
Oh, cool. Well, you heard some of the music then coming out of those.
I know. I had no idea.
So what are you working on these days? I know you said you're doing a lot of mixing and you've got projects coming up, but are there anything specific that you want to shout out?
Well, other than my albums that you've mentioned, thank you. I mixed the last, there's a jazz singer in Los Angeles, Kathy Siegel Garcia. And I've mixed her last 3 records. One of them has not been released yet, but 2 of them, interesting to listen to, jazz records, really cool production, some great playing. I've done that. There's an artist named Ryan Bridwell. I produced 2 of his records and mixed them and engineered a lot of it. And there's a new one that just was released last month called The Road Ahead, and it's cool, instrumental, jazzy music. You might want to give it a listen. And right now, as we speak, I'm in the middle of, this is real exciting, mixing a Chet Baker record, unreleased stuff, and real interesting, kind of pure jazz. He sings and plays trumpet, and some great players on the thing. And we're kind of probably 2/3 of the way done with that one. So that's kind of the present project.
Nice.
Yeah, no, that's very exciting.
Yeah,
a bunch of stuff coming out. It seems like in relatively short order. That must be really cool to see all that stuff to come to fruition.
Yeah, pretty busy. It's good. It's good.
Do you do any touring or band shows yourself, or is it mostly just in the studio?
Mostly just in the studio. I did have and you can look it up online. I did have up until a few years back a Miles Davis tribute band.
Nice.
Electric stuff like In a Silent Way and a lot of stuff from the early 70s. It's called Miles Ahead Group. There is a Miles Ahead blues band somewhere in the southeast of the United States, and I think another one in England. But if you search for Miles Ahead Group on YouTube, there's a bunch of videos up there of our live concerts. But no, now it's just really, really studio stuff. It's I don't know. I'm just getting old at schlepping the gear and just late hours
I don't blame
and stuff. I thoroughly enjoy it. I love playing live. So that, time on stage is great, but the schlep, and I'm not interested in touring or anything like that anymore. I'm pretty much a homebody and just love to be in the studio, create.
Yeah. I mean, you found your calling, and I think being in the studio is just as important, doing those recordings and mixing the songs. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Lots of fun. Well,
I don't want to keep you, but I just wanted to thank you so much for giving us a little bit of your time. It was so nice to meet you. I think it's, like I said earlier, this is blowing my mind. I grew up with this game. I'm 40 years old, and
that's too cool. It's just too cool.
Too cool. I've actually got it right here.
Wow.
The old PC version, but
wow.
It's just, this is another step in my quest to show respect to the composers who've inspired me, and you were definitely on that list. So I just wanted to thank you for that, and just being so gracious and giving us some of your time. So thank you.
Yeah.
No problem. Thank you guys. Thank you for your enthusiasm. And again, there's not a lot of people that really listen to this stuff, whether it's game music or anything. It's I find it kind of sad, but no, it's great.
It's funny you should mention that, because I think that's one of the things that has actually started to change in the last few years. I find that a lot of video game music is becoming almost front and center. And that's really fantastic to see, because I certainly agree with you that in many titles and for many years, it really seemed like more of an afterthought. And that's the reason that we try and feature composers and
Nice.
involved in the industry like you.
Way cool.
You're the
Way
ones
cool.
that make the
Thank you,
impression.
guys.
So,
Yeah.
by all means, if you want to have us share any links to like your YouTube channel or to your upcoming works, we'll make sure that we put those in the show notes. And
Great.
again,
I'll
thank
send you
very
some
much.
links. I'll email you some links. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Thank you so much again, Mike, for joining us. And we will definitely stay in contact if you don't mind.
Absolutely. Great. Thank you guys so much.
You're welcome.
You have a great night.
Thank you for listening. If you liked what you heard, please rate and subscribe. We very much appreciate it. Also visit our brand new website, magusmediaproductions.net, to get all information on every show. See you next time.